Kevin Brookhouser and Tim Lee are Google Apps for Education certified trainers, and they'll be leading you through presentation and demonstration of intermediate and advanced forms in Google Docs. So I'm going to go ahead and give Kevin the ability to present the slides.
All right. Let's see. Hey, Kevin, I'm this work. Let's go to that you can screen.
I can. Thank you, Kevin.
All right. Everybody, thanks for joining us today. This, again, is a webinar on intermediate and advanced forms in Google Docs. Kevin Brookhouser, I'm an English and history teacher and a Google certified teacher and trainer for Apps for EDU. I teach at York School in Monterey, California. And I just want to first apologize for my voice. Well, here in California, we may be the only people in the country that are seeing some nice weather. Our entire school has gotten sick, and so has I. But I heard my doctor that there's 9% chance that you cannot contract my cold over a webinar. So I'll hand it over to Tim.
Hey, my name is Tim Lee. I'm a Google Apps consultant and IT project manager and work for Applied IT. I've worked with businesses and education establishments in the UK, such as University of St Andrews, before moving across the East Coast. I'm very happy to be here and helping you guys out with some forms.
I'll go over the agenda for the day. We're going to first just give a view of the basics in Google Forms. Hopefully you got to listen to the webinar last week that gave the finals, but we'll link to last webinar to get the basics if you missed that. And then then Tim is going to talk about some hidden features in Forms, some features that everybody can see right from the top. I'm going to give some real-time classroom saving examples of how Forms has saved a lot of time for me. Tim is going to go into quizzes that self-grade, which is a pretty cool feature. And then Tim is also going to talk about some troubleshootings and what he's learned in the process. Let's just give a basic review of what Google Forms is. Google Forms is part of the Google Docs suite. It works in conjunction with Google Docs spreadsheets. It allows you to create forms and surveys, and it allows your audience to submit answers, either multiple choice or open-ended or from checklist, and then those answers are delivered electronically into a Google Docs spreadsheet. Those answers are organized in a way that you can sort in a way that allows you to use that data effectively. On this slide, you can see a link to Sean's webinar, which details some of the basics. I'll show you how one of the forms that I'm using in the classroom. If you just go to this link in the future, I'm going to exit and show you what a form looks like on one of my Google sites. So I'm going to go to the site that I use for my English class, and we were recently studying Antony and civil disobedience, and I have my students working on a creative writing piece where a character undergoes the practice of civil disobedience, and this is a form that I created to help me get a sense of what my students were working on. And so I asked them what section they're in. I have 3 different sections of the same class, and then them submit their name and what story they have chosen, and ask them to paste the first sentence of their piece and the law that the character in that story breaks as part of practice civil disobedience. And so I have my students fill that out, and as a result, all of that data into this spreadsheet here with a timestamp. And since I had them post their section, I'm able to sort all of the answers by section. I use their names here to protect their innocence. But here's all that data, and it allows me to get all that information and not have to use any paper. So it's been a huge time saver. So that's the general overview of Google Docs. Now let's attend some hidden features and forms.
Guys, I think they're going to fire me over the ball here so I can control the screen. Cool, and let's go and share my screen here. I'll just share my Chrome window. Yeah, I think you guys can probably see that. So let's get started. And John did a great job last week at introducing Google Forms, and Kevin's given a short brief overview there. If you haven't viewed his webinar yet, I'd certainly recommend it. I'm going to take you through a couple hidden features, or should we say less obvious features of Forms. So we'll jump into Forms and create one as we go along. So in Forms, within Google Docs, let's go and create new, and we're going to click on Forms here. And let's just create a simple title. So I'm going to just fire in there Google Forms. Okay. The first feature that I love about Google Forms is page breaks. The thing is filling out a form that scrolls forever. Now, people focus by inserting page breaks and splitting up the content. It's also great for creating flows that you can ask people based on their answers. An example of this, if you say that you're in 8th grade, you'll be asked questions through Google Forms relevant to the 8th grade. And I'll explain this in a minute. So to add a page break, what we need to do is go in and click on Add Item and choose Page Break. It's as basic as that. So let's add this in, and I'm just going to copy in here for that page, and we're going to call it Use of Forms. That's just a description here as well, just give people an idea when they get onto this page what they're going to see, and then we're going to ask them to tell us about how they've used Forms in their school. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add another page break here, and so we've got 3 pages, and let's just call this one Feedback. Okay, so I'm looking through here, so now I've actually got 3 pages. So it's 3 distinct pages that you can see in different blocks here. Okay. So we're actually creating now, fill out form. People see that page 1 up at the top, they'll then click continue, they'll go to page 2, they'll continue and go to the page 3. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a question so we can add some flow. Okay, so we're going to go to this first question and edit it. I've just double clicked on it. I'm going to bring in have Google Forms before. Change this to a multiple choice question here, and we've got 2 simple answers, yes and a no. Okay. Have the multiple choice, we've got an option here to say go to page based on answer. Click that box, then we're going to see is an extra little box down here on the right, the end of our option, at the end of yes, where to go. Someone clicks that. If someone clicks on yes, they're going to go to the next page. Now what we're going to do is we're going to just click on here, and we want to say, well, once they say yes, we'll go to page 2. Say no, we want them going straight to feedback. Okay? So it's realistically these 2 boxes that create our flow in our forms. Right? So people that have used forms before, and they yes, they're going to go to page 2 and be asked questions on it. And for people that say no, they're going to go straight to feedback. Now, what I generally advise people to do is if you're going to be creating flows and making people going to different pages based on their answer, I'd recommend you to make that a question, make it mandatory. That means that people have to answer it before going to the next page. What you can do as well, if you see here on the right, there's natural flow of the form. Okay, I actually have an option between the page breaks. I have an option of where to go to that next page. So I'm currently after page 1, it's going to go to page 2. If I did not have mandatory, or if I did not have this question in, I could choose this to go straight to page 3 if I wanted to. I'm going to click on go to page 3 here. And if we do have any questions like this that have got page flow in it, then override whatever the default is. Okay? So, whizzing through here to try and fit things in. Okay? But one thing to note is on each page we can only have one question to dictate flow. So we can have two multiple choice questions in a page which tell someone where they're going to go into the next page. It will always take the last question that you've got. What I'm going to do with this question 2, and I'm going to drag this one down to the use of forms. I'm going to change the question type here to something that I quite like is grid, and I don't think it gets enough time, enough use. And I'm going to change that question here to ask people the ways that they've used forms. So list a couple ways that you've used forms. Okay. And what we're going to do is we'll change this to 2. We're going to have yes and no column. And what we're going to do is add on the rows, we're going to add on options here. So getting to know my class, I'm going to add another one, spelling test, a test, comprehension questions. Okay, and I'm going to done. Okay, that's enough. So what that's going to do is give them the option to click yes or no, and now a grid feature or type of question. So this is page 3. Let's add another question up the top, and add a question for a scale. And what we're going to do is get some feedback on this webinar. I'm going to fire in a question here. Have you learned from this webinar? Put on 1 as nothing, and let's put in I'm now a guru. So as you can see there, we've got 3 questions that flow down, but if someone answers this one and says yes, use forms, they should go to page 2 and then go to page 3. No, they should go all the way to the end. Okay, so go to the live form by clicking on the bottom here, and just click save of the top right hand corner, and go to the live form. You can see the form that we've got in front of us. Okay, so you'll see the first page. So now if I do click yes and continue, get that second page, and I answer, I've used forms, a couple of ways I've used forms, and press continue, and I get to the feedback. And jump back here. If I say no, if someone along and said no to our form, that page flow takes us straight into that page 3. Okay. So what I see here is that you can create complex flows, or so people get asked questions that's actually directed to them rather than just having data or going through 1 to 2 questions. So you can have a flow throughout your survey or throughout your form. This is a simple example of a flow. But while leading an IT audit at a private school in Virginia, I actually recently used a form. To the live form here. You can see it's actually got about 38 questions and a complex flow of about 10 pages. And it was completed by about 150 staff. Okay. So it does show that basically that a form can be used for both a classroom for a simple quiz or an in-depth survey. And we jump really quickly before my time's up here to another simple hidden gem that I've seen used by teachers, and that's a section header. Now, obviously this is supposed to divide sections and sounds quite obvious. Teachers use it in certain passages for questions to be based upon. The example I'll show you is a French quiz here. A section header, which is this part here, is actually used as the passage to ask the questions about. very easy way to add questions, to add passages into your forms. And another easy way to add paragraph text or passages into your forms, except for using either a section header or page break. The thing that I'm just going to show you really quickly is editing confirmation. A key feature to personalize your form. And basically that changes the one receives once they submit the form. So I submit this form, you see that I get thanks for your response. Your response has been recorded. So to change that, what we'll do is click into our form, and I'm just going to go straight into here, into the form editor. Okay, so this is as if I'm in that French form. I could go into more actions and edit confirmation. So let's fire this answer into French and say to the, and you'll get your results into the next lesson. And I'll Google Translate. So I'll click on save. And I'll actually go and put a live form. It's at the bottom here. And now if I submit that, so I get that new information node. And Google's smart, they'll actually translate it for me as well. I'll pack over to Kevin, and he's going to have some nice things on some time-saving techniques and everything else that you can use.
Okay, Tim, I think we're back, and now I'm going to share a little bit about how you can save some time at your, and then also distribute these forms. So if you go to one of the teachers, again, use these is by putting them into your sites, and it's very easy to embed these forms into a site. So if you go to any page in a site and edit page, click edit page. Easiest way to work with sites. And if you just go to insert and spreadsheet form, it's all the forms in your document list, and you can just click on any of those, and it automatically embeds that form in the site. But there are also other ways if you're not using Google Sites to edit forms. One classroom tool that we use at our school is Moodle, and I know a lot of teachers use Moodle as well as another digital classroom management tool. And here's one of my pages, and you can do a very similar thing if you just click turn editing on your Moodle page, and let's say we go to there. Make sure that you're in the HTML editor rather than the WYSIWYG, what you see editor, and that's really found by clicking a button that looks like this, and it brings up the HTML code. Then if you go back to some form that you were working on, and if you go to Edit Form, under More Actions, Embed Form, and that brings up a embed code, and it's already highlighted, so you just copy that by hitting Control-C on a PC or Command-C on a Apple, on a Mac, and then so cut to your clipboard. You can go back to that Moodle page or whatever website they're editing that allows you to edit at an HTML level, and then you just paste the code in there, hit Save, and there's that form embedded right in there. So you can do that with pretty much any other page. Another way you can distribute this is just by using a URL shortener. Google has a really great one that they released a couple months ago. It's at goo.gl, no.com or anything like that, and it gives you a window like this. And what you can do is paste, if you go back to your form page and edit form, this link, the link says you can view the published form here. That's really long. You can never ask anyone to type that into a computer. So if you just do that to your clipboard and go back to your goo.gl page. Long link in there, and then you shorten it, and this much shorter, go.gl/GE capital HMI. Now, the thing that's cool about this URL shortener is that it tracks that you get, and it also should generate a QR code. Although it's not doing that right now. Let me hit refresh, see if. Oh, and this is what this is a two-dimensional barcode. And smartphones now have readers that they can, if they take a picture of this, it'll automatically link to that page. And so if you had a smartphone that had a QR code, read it. I could post this. I could print this out and put it up on the door of my classroom, and so could walk by with their smartphones, take a photo of it, and that would link them right to that form. So that's another cool way. I think we're going to see more and more QR forms in the future. Other things that you can do is you can just post the link into your Twitter feed or Facebook. Another way to get that out. And then I want to show one more thing that you can use. Let me get out of here. The form for myself, and I call it Kevin's Teaching Journal, and it's a super simple form that I created just to allow me to just reflect on what happened that day in class. And the reason I like this, and it's just a form that I created for myself. I don't share it with anybody else, but it gives a big text box where I click on this bookmark, the thing that I have bookmarked to every browser that I own. And I don't need to log into anything, and I can just it creates it eliminates all the friction that I might have to journaling and reflecting on my teaching. It just allows me to type what I want, and I don't need to log in anything. And then it puts data in a spreadsheet and timestamps it. So that's another. It's been a huge time saver for me, and it's enabled me to journal when I wasn't able to in the past. Okay, so there's some time-saving tips. Let's hand it back to know that a lot of people are eager to hear about self-grading quizzes.
Guys, I'm back on. I'm just going to share my screen and share my question again. Let's share that. Let's see, I'll share it. Cool. Let's jump down. I'm just going to jump in with ad-lib a little bit here, because I've actually heard a lot of people actually asking for certain features, and within the Google certified trainers, we send back messages back and forth. One thing that I've heard a lot of people asking for is how to set a form to accept a certain number of responses. And although you can't change whether a form is accepting responses or not, except for manually, and that option is up here on the top here on the menu, and you can click off that accepting response. That means my form isn't accepting responses anymore. If I click that on and checkboxes on there, that means that I can actually accept responses. Now, although that's just a manual process without actually using any scripts or something like that, there is a way that you can actually do this on forms. So the use case might be that you've got the first 10 people or the first 15 people signed to a webinar or to a training event, and you want to shut that form down once it hits that 15th person. Okay. Example that Sean actually touched on last week was general notifications. Okay, and he did actually touch on that, and so we'll actually be notified via email when anyone submits our form. Now, the notifications, you must be in spreadsheet view like I'm in at the moment, and if you're here in the top right hand corner, you've got there, and I can set notification rules. Now, generally, I'm just going to edit this one. Generally, what actually you can do is with form, you can actually set it so then as soon as someone submits a form, you get emailed straight away. So I'm just going to check this box and check this one here. Okay. And that means that basically as soon as someone submits that form, I'm going to get an email straight away the owner of that form. Now, it uses that, I believe, in desktop support or technical support. One thing you can do is, let's say we wanted to be notified when some people have been actually submitted this form. And what we can do is change it and put this option of going, any of these cells are changed. And you can see there I've selected A11, and that means that once 10 people submit my form, I'll get emailed. I can go in manually and come this and shut down my form. So that's a manual workaround for those that actually want to set up a form to only accept a certain amount of responses. Okay, so we're going to go over to the holy grail as such, which is self-grading quizzes, and I'll jump straight to my docs here. Stuff, and what there is there isn't a way to build. There isn't a built-in way to automatically grade quizzes and forms. But as I said before, some of the most interesting things you can actually do in forms is actually within the spreadsheets and manipulating the data that you collect. When you can Google Forms with some basic formulas and spreadsheets, you can create some advanced forms such as self-grading quizzes. And through the way of Google templates or public templates within Google Docs, they usually use pre-made forms. So you don't actually need to get too techy and create a form from scratch, but follow some basic steps. Now I've created a PDF guide which is actually going to be linked in the actual presentation and guide you through, and so you can go through this afterwards and go through the individual steps at your own pace. Let's get started, okay? So if we're in Docs, we have a search bar at the top here. Now what to do is click Browse Template Gallery on the right-hand side. Okay. So we're in Template Gallery. For those in Google Docs for Education or Google Docs for Business, you need to click on this Public Templates link. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is actually look for one that I've created already, which is GCT Self-Grading Quiz and Templates. And as you can see here, I've got 3 options in front of me, 3 templates covering various lengths of quizzes. Okay. So instead of creating things from scratch, we can actually use templates that are already out there. Now there are a lot of self-grading quizzes actually on the public templates. Use whichever one you want. The guide that I've created obviously just guides you through how to edit this one. Okay, so for today, we're going to do a 10-question quiz. So click on Use this template. So what that does is that's copied it to my Google Docs. And we're now editing our own self-grading quiz. Jump in the top here and change the title, and I'm going to call it Pop Quiz. We could obviously add in some description there. And you can see here we've got 3 questions up at the top. Now, formulas behind the scenes, it's important that you don't delete these questions. So the step in the whole process is to create our questions. So let's jump into here, and we've got questions. Add some maths, and I'm just going to copy and paste some in here. And what does 10 times 10 equal? We're going to add the second question, and I'm doing, so what is 5% of 100? English questions in here. And third one, what's the third letter in the alphabet? So we basically add our questions down on this template. What question do we want to ask? And I know that this is the 10-question template, so it's going to take me a second to pull this all out. And add another one, past tense of run. Okay, as you can see here, I'm just filling these out. Now, the D questions in this template are text, but we can choose multiple choice. So let's add some multiple choice ones in here, and let's do a geography question here. Fire in a couple options of where Crater Lake is, somewhere that I enjoyed visiting last year. Add a couple dates in here. Okay. We can use multiple choices as well as text questions. Let's add another multiple choice in this one. So all in here is start quiz. There we go. And I must admit, I'm new to the States. I didn't actually know the answers to some of these questions, except for the clear one. And let's add some history ones for the history buffs up there. I'm just trying to show you some examples. Let's add another one about World War II. We should go back, and if we wanted to, we could edit the section header, or we could actually add a theme quiz as you want to do, and personalize it as such if you want to. Straight into the next step, which is to specify what the correct answers to our questions are. Now, to do this, we must be in the spreadsheet view. So I'm going to click Save up here on the right-hand corner. I'm going to go to More Options, See Responses and Spreadsheet. Okay. And as you can see, I've got two rows here below my questions, row 2 and row 3. So answers and values. Okay, so for the formulas to work, what we need to do is place the correct answer under the relevant question. Okay, let's see how good I am at going through these. 10 times 10, 100. 20% already completed. What comes before T, and I'm going to put an S, plural of mice, and let's put this in. And I'm going to fire along here. Okay, and I think that's Minnesota, is that correct? So correct me if I'm doing this wrong. And I think that's 1917 and something like 1941. Okay, I'll put my correct answers underneath the questions, so directly underneath the questions. We have another thing here, value. So we actually set the value of the questions, and we might have different weights to questions. The correct answer that earns a different mark. And by default, these are all set to 1. Okay, for example, let's change the last 2 questions to be marks. So you can change around the weighting for your quiz. Okay, you can now see that the total quiz will be marked out of 18. Okay. Now that's us actually set up. That's us ready to accept responses. Now we could distribute this form in any of the ways that Kevin mentioned, whether that's Twitter, via goo.gl, actual web page, or so forth. Okay. So let's go to the live form. Let's just click on form here and say go to live form. You can see I've got my form and got my quiz. Now I'm going to be this kid here and say that I know all the answers, but I'm terrible at history actually when it comes down to it. So I'm through and adding in these answers here. As you can see, I've just got to scroll down and let's check Oregon, Minnesota, and let's say that this person was horrible at history and thought that World War I was in 1981 and World War II wasn't it the Desert Storm or something in 1991. We're going to submit. Okay, just as if a student's actually carrying this out. Okay, so that's us in, and I'm going to click back and see our answers are straight in there, in the top row here. So answers go straight into different areas. We've got our first entry. What you can notice on the bottom here, we've got scores. So the scores tab down at the bottom, and we'll click here. See that the scores are automatically calculated based on the answers and weightings on the first sheet. So the not so good history scored 44%, or 8 out of 18. that's because I've got the last two questions wrong. So think about this, and as more people fill in this quiz, their entries will fire into the first sheet. The scores will be automatically generated in the second. Now, some basic formulas in the sheet, what the score sheet uses. First, over here on the right, we use an if function. And for those that are happy to play with it, take a copy of this template, mess with it, and change it as you will. But realistically, what this if function does is just checks that for the three, that E4 is equal to E2. Is equal in a 0 on this score. Is equal, as you see, it actually adds in whatever my value is. So change that value to 3, and change that there. We can see that that score will change to 3 on this side here, and got 50%. Can actually change that as we go along. Right? But you need to play around with any formulas here because they're already set up to work with the form. As you saw, if I did adjust the question's value or data in the sheet, or if I do adjust any value or answers in the data, then the score sheet will be automatically updated. Now, there's key points to note with the self-grading forms. Read your questions carefully so there's only one answer. For example, if I ask which country is Barack Obama president, kids could write United States of America. If you had USA as the correct answer up in here, just USA, it would be marked wrong. So what you need to do is make sure that your questions can only generate one answer. So if they wrote 100 in text form in their answer, that would be marked wrong in this example. Okay, so it just checks the value of one cell against another. Now, another one that I'd point to is that always start a new form for quiz. It's simple to do. You saw I've done it in under 5 minutes. But you can make your own template if you want to play around with it. Another, do not add or remove questions without changing the formula. So just the templates that are there, I think we've got in there 10, 15, and 20 templates. And actually go and change that to an 18 quiz because you'll have to change the formulas so they add up. Give you the right data. More that I've listed in the PDF walkthrough showed you here, and that will actually guide you straight through and everything else. Now we can get a lot more advanced, so automatically emailing back respondents or students with their grades. But we start getting into the spreadsheet formulas and scripts, which I understand we might have some upcoming webinars on shortly. So that covers from the start all the way through on the self-grading quizzes. So realistically, the 4 stages are your template or find a template and use it, add your questions, add your answers and values, and start sending out to the kids and getting those answers in. We want to also remember to shut down that quiz once you've stopped the tail or whatever so you don't get late entries. The thing is, it's time-stamped. You can actually see when people actually answer that quiz. Okay, so I think that I'm going to continue on here, and I'm going to jump straight into the webinar and through that. But we've got some that have been learned, and let's fire this up. And I'll fly through and find the place. Okay, so I've used forms for about 2 years.
Tim, is the screen you have it?
Is it full screen? There.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. I've used forms for about 2 years, and things that people keep on hitting, and whenever they're actually having problems. Now, things obviously is your form accepting responses. So in the menu, the form menu within spreadsheets, that check look at. And also, if you're doing something time-based, make sure you take that off so then your form stops getting responses. Another thing is be careful when deleting entries. When you're actually deleting entries from forms, somebody's submission, an entry, delete a whole row. So click on the row and delete that whole row. Page flows. Now, what page flows does is actually obviously asks questions that not everyone answers. So we'll have incorrect summary totals and percentages for those questions. Not everyone answers. You might have the wrong percentages in total. Okay, it's still going to actually divide that by the number of people who submitted your full form. As I said just a couple of minutes ago, don't reuse forms. Create a new copy or start from a template. Again, I think that we're going to have a webinar shortly in about a month or so on templates within Google Apps. There is a limit on number of cells now. This won't apply to most schools, but working with the University of St Andrews, we actually used forms to get back student experience. About 100 questions, long form, but obviously I think that the number of cells within spreadsheets is something like 400,000 that you can have. Now divide that by 100, I think we could have 4,000 entries, and with a university of about 10,000 or 15,000 students, we hit that number. And what you can do is just clear the entries by deleting all the rows or copying them out or cutting them out, and the form will continue to start running. Long entries can be hard to read, especially if you're asking long questions. It's taking up space within your screen. I think Kevin added this, which is the reliable connectivity is required. So if it's filling out a form or filling out a survey and they lose connectivity, they're going to start it from scratch. So make sure that you've got that reliable connectivity.
Yeah, can I just add something there? If you're in the classroom, you want to the same bomber Wi-Fi network, or if you're in a computer lab with wired access, you just need to make sure that you've got some pretty good bandwidth. And I would in that long text entries, one way you can get around that is just with the width of the cells in your spreadsheet that you get afterwards.
Yeah. Kevin, can you repeat the very beginning of that? Your voice broke up a bit. I didn't hear the very beginning of that statement you said.
About the connectivity?
Yes.
Okay, so what I was saying is if you're a teacher in the classroom and you're asking all of your students to fill out a form at the same time, so if you were in a quiz situation, you really want to, I would suggest that you tested it first with something that wasn't as high stakes, a quiz or a test, and make sure that you have enough bandwidth in order to handle that running Google Docs, because it does need a fair amount. You don't need an extraordinary connection, but if you've got 20 or 30 Wi-Fi machines on one access point, you can run into some problems. So just test early.
I think that jumps onto some useful resources, and what we've done is built on Sean's that he presented last week. So the top one here within the slideshow goes straight to his webinar. We've also got using forms, and I think that takes you straight into Google Docs. There's also some great blogs out there. I think that Kevin mentioned one of them earlier. Now this one here actually will take you to 64 interesting. It's a slideshow, which is 64 interesting ways to use Google Forms in the classroom. All Google Forms help. There's the Docs YouTube channel, Google Apps YouTube channel as well, and there's also integrating Google for teachers. But also, as a plug for all EDU trainers out there, there's some great trainers in the place in different places to help you guys out. And that's on to our questions. Feel free to contact me or contact Kevin. Our emails and Twitter feeds are up there.
And if you have more questions, please ask them in the question and answer box. And I'm going to go ahead and ask a few to Kevin and Tim right now. So, Kevin, when you were presenting, somebody noticed you had, I believe in your Firefox toolbar, all little icons for the bookmarks, and they wanted to know how you did that. Was that a Firefox plugin or some other default?
Yeah, that's a Firefox plugin, but Chrome also has a plugin. You just have to search around for a plugin. If you just did a Google search for those things are called favicons, Favicons, and if you Google search for favicons in the bookmarks bar, you'll find resources for that. So you can do that both in Firefox and Chrome. And in Chrome, all you have to you'll get the favicons. You just have to delete the text. And I swear I'm using that. Those are my bookmarks.
Thanks, Kevin. And some questions about the self-graded form. Do capitalization and spacing count towards the calculation of those formulas?
Capitalization is not case sensitive, and I think I'm still sharing here, but I don't know if I can go into here, and let's find our form. So it's not case sensitive, but spacing does, and unfortunately that's the only way you can do it. When you're a little bit more advanced, you can actually put those 4 formulas in there, but at the moment, the ones that are out there on the Google templates, none of them actually have kind of formulas to split down spacing. Say that it gives you your grades, but check over them, just make sure.
Just self-grades, just like that?
So you don't need to do anything at all. As soon as someone answers this quiz, it'll straight in and the scores are there. So you don't actually have to do anything, press any buttons. These are automatically generated. And they're based on, obviously, your values on sheet.
Just in case anybody missed it, the reason it's only 44% when he got 8 of them correct, it's because those last 2 were weighted heavily and he got the last 2 wrong. It's because he weighted those much more heavily.
I can add in to the same, as you can see there, I've got 80%, 8 out of 10. So now 1 and 1, as you can there.
That threw me off for a second when I saw your demo.
And with this template, is it possible to give partial credit? I don't believe so, given the type of form questions, but have you ever tried to do a partial credit quiz?
If you want to, you can actually go in there, so you can actually have a look through their answers if you want to and change anything. So if you look through here and they've spelt something wrong, and so for example, if let's say that they typed in that and mice, spelt it wrong, here I've got that wrong. Here, you can do is go to the student's thing and student's answer, change that, and see their mark will go get in there.
Change that score to 0.5 on the spreadsheet right there?
Yeah, if you wanted to add a 0.5, that will then your relevant scores. So if you want to, you can do it through either way, either change your answer or changing their score.
Is there a way to make it case sensitive if you did want it case sensitive?
Good.
I doubt it.
I don't think that Google, the if statement will actually do it. There might be some people out there that might contradict me here, but I don't think the basic if statement can do sensitive.
Okay. And we had another question on how do you get just a single student test result so you can PDF their test. My suggestion for this would actually to be if you create a new tab in the spreadsheet, you can use the transpose feature. So if you do equals transpose and then choose...
Just do that for you, Dana, in front of you.
Yep.
Yeah, transpose.
Row of wait for. You can use that function and it'll kind of put that way. So if you want, you can also have another transpose of the question row so that you see the questions next to it. And that way you could print that out, that particular sheet as a PDF just as you would any other spreadsheet. You can go to the print menu or the save as menu. So that would be my suggestion for that. And I know Kevin or Tim, you guys have any other suggestions?
I think that playing around with the data afterwards is probably more a spreadsheet thing, and hopefully we're going to have a webinar on that. But if you do go to the Google Docs templates and go to the public templates and even just type in self-grading forms, see that there are a variety out there. The one I've created has got the values in. There's ones out there that will do different things and create a sheet for each student, for example.
Yeah, if any of you, like me, were a little intimidated by that transpose function, you can, if you're with cut and paste, you could just copy whatever score you wanted to. It's not elegant as Dana and Tim's solution, but it'll get the job done if you're willing to just do a little more legwork.
Tim, could you just show again how somebody could go about searching for these types of templates?
So let's go into Google Docs. Okay, and I've got the public templates here. So I'm going to go right back to the start here and just click on my mail and get a new Docs window. So here I am on Google Docs. As most of you will see, it's a nice new interface. I hope everyone's enjoying it. I'm going to click on that Browse Template Gallery. Okay, so because I've got Google Apps for Business and Google Apps for Education here, I get my own templates. We click on the public templates. Okay, and you can search this up on the top side here. So for these ones that I'm creating, I get it in the slideshow and the instructions in the PDF. There's GCT grading quiz. By doing that search, I can template here. To jump in and in self-grading quiz, and you see that I get lots of other options. There's lots of people out there that have got grading quizzes. Another thing is, well, if you're looking for form templates, down the bottom left, and click on Forms. And so go back to this and I click on Forms. You can see all the different templates that people put up there on Forms. Templates are fantastic, and as you can see, there's thousands of them up there. And because Google's nice, you can have a look and sort them by hottest or most users or rating.
And is there a way for students to receive their grades immediately after taking the quiz, or does the teacher have to communicate the grades to the student? So one thing that I would add here is that there's a very advanced way that you can manipulate your spreadsheet data, because after the form answers go into the spreadsheet, that's essentially what you're doing. And I believe Rob, one of the other attendees, had talked about using scripts in Google Spreadsheets. And so there would be a way, if you wanted to code a script, which is a little bit like a macro, if you're familiar with those, a script that would, if the email address was there and their score was there, it could automatically pull the email address and pull the score and then email the student with their score in there. That would be a script, though, that you would need to code and run. So it's not readily available. However, it is possible. Tim or Kevin, any other tips?
Another option, and I didn't really cover this because I wanted to save some time, but if you're happy for everyone to see their own grades, what you can do is let them see the spreadsheet afterwards. So if you wanted to, you could actually let them and show them the spreadsheet, so share the spreadsheet with them. Teachers, go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, I'm saying if you do that, it's not, they would not just see their own grades, but they would see each other's grades.
Yes. So you're happy for them to see everyone's grades.
Yeah.
Do that. The script is definitely a way to go.
If that is the case, you just want to make sure that you only show them, give them viewing privileges and not edit privileges, unless you'd like them to change their grades.
Okay. Let's see. So somebody asked if there's, I believe, tips for or hints for copying and pasting scores to grading programs such as Infinite Campus or any other kinds of other software that might be out there.
What I've seen people doing, I'm just going to jump and find my space again and here. What I've seen people doing is just copying this text down into Google Spreadsheet and downloading it into as a CSV file. So you actually highlight the first name and post or whatever you want in the CSV file and download it as a CSV. You just select it, call to a new spreadsheet, and then go click on download as CSV or text. You need to upload into those Grade Quick or what program it is. Do it that way.
It would be tough. You would need to have the fields matched to be able to do it in bulk. And so if there were a way to adjust the fields on the output end, match the fields of the template, then that would work. But Tim, correct me if I'm wrong. Can you're not really you have to adjust to make changes to the template itself, or to the left side of the template, right?
Yeah.
The script.
Once you've got your grades and everything else, you can manipulate this side of the template completely.
Oh yeah, that's
this side of the bar. So what your grades, you can do that whatever you want. But what I say is just copying that data to another spreadsheet, changing the rows to fit whatever you need to upload into Grade Quick or whatever your program is. It depends on what the solution is that you're uploading it to. But out there can help, certainly.
Okay, last question. Is there an option to insert an image into a form? So I can actually answer that one. At this time, it's not possible to insert an image into a form. However, a workaround that you can do for this is if you have a Google site set up, as Kevin had his site with his Antigone quiz embedded in there, you can try and have images on the site's page and then have the form also embedded on the same page so that you can at least let them refer to the images on the same page. Unfortunately, there's not an easier way right now to include images into forms. Kevin or Tim, any other tips?
If you're doing a site, what I have seen, and I think it was actually up in New York at Google, really recommended to have, if you're doing a site, have the form on one side and have the responding responding pictures on the right.
As a reminder, there are a number of formats that Google offers. What are they called? Templates? But backgrounds that Google provides, but it's limited. But dress it up a little bit, you can do that.
Well, we are currently out of time, but I want to thank everyone, especially Tim and Kevin, for putting this webinar together, and for everyone else who joined us. You will be receiving an email tomorrow that will have links to Kevin and Tim's presentation, and you can access the links within their presentation, as well as a recording of this webinar that will be uploaded to YouTube. I'll also have the question and answer transcript available, so if you ask a question or want to come back to it, you'll be able to review it there. Next week, our professional development webinar at the same time and day is going to be on using Google Apps as part of the Google Science Fair, which is on the first international online science fair. So if you're interested in participating in that, it's a good webinar to tune into to learn how to use Google Apps to accomplish that. Thank you again, Tim and Kevin, and again, everyone will receive an email tomorrow with a summary of all of the resources that were available here.
Ready?
Thanks.
The air?
I think so.
Well, all right, thanks a lot. That was fun.